Our next presenter, we will next hear from Randy Allen Harris. Randy Allen Harris researches the intersection of rhetoric, linguistics, cognitive neuroscience, and artificial intelligence at the University of Waterloo, where he is a professor of English language and literature and director of the multinational, multi-sectoral, and multidisciplinary research project, the Rhetoricon database. His books include The Linguistic Wars, Rhetoric and Incommensurability, and the Path-Breaking Voice Interaction Design. Please welcome Randy Harris.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Congratulations to all the awardees and the new members. If you don't recognize the quotation in the title, if you press a stone with your finger, the finger is also pressed by the stone. And then the subtitle, what computation linguists need to know. Sorry. I'm Randy Harris. I'll just quickly leap in then. So if you don't recognize the quotation here, if you press a stone with your finger, the finger is also pressed by the stone. That's from Isaac Newton. It was an illustration of his third law of motion. And as we all know, he was one of the earliest fellows of the Royal Society and also a long-standing president in the 17th century. We all stand in his shadow, or I should say we all stand in his light. The title, more specifically the subtitle, is massively overdetermined. Computational and other linguists need to know a lot more about rhetoric than they do, but what I hope to show is just a small sliver of what they need to know and show that illustratively. My argument is fleshed out more fully in this paper, which you can find at the URL there if you're interested. It's a good deal more technical than this talk, however, which I hope to make sensible not just to linguists and rhetoricians, but to general folks. I think I went back. I want to go forward. There we are. The day I started to think about this presentation, I saw a tweet by someone with the handle of @Redbird. I'm sorry. Many of us are getting ready to leave the platform now that it's being taken over by fascism. You can take the boy out of apartheid, but you cannot take apartheid out of the boy. It doesn't take much to figure out what the context of this is. Elon Musk took over Twitter, and within 24 hours, the use of the N-word had gone up by 500% on the platform, along with misogyny and anti-LGBTQ hate and so forth. And so @Redbird said you can't take the apartheid out of the boy. You can take the boy out of apartheid. You can't take apartheid out of the boy. And it's this particular expression that I want to focus on. I don't suppose many people will know the names of the patterns that are encoded here, but you can all see that there are lots of patterns. There's lexical repetitions in particular. And the repetitions aren't just scattered about randomly. They're quite systematic. So boy and apartheid are repeated in reverse. There's two occurrences of you can. They're both at the beginning of their clauses. The prepositional complex, out of, or in the middle of their clauses. It's a unique utterance, but you may have heard something like it. It's an instance of what I call the A out of B, not B out of A construction, which dates to at least the 19th century. So my argument then is an argument by example. I'm going to demonstrate that this expression cannot be understood on the basis of standard issue syntax and semantics alone, that it depends inelimitably on rhetorical figuration. And further, that rhetorical figuration depends on domain general human cognition. Further yet, that these are not pieces of fancy oratory from Churchill or Obama or Maya Angelou or Dr. Seuss. They're little pieces of ordinary language, cliches even. Okay, so here's our prime specimen. You can take the boy out of apartheid. You can't take apartheid out of the boy. The first layer is relatively straightforward. It's just sorting out the reference based on our general knowledge. We know that both instances of the boy refer to Elon Musk, that the first instance of apartheid refers to the country of South Africa, the second to its virulent anti-black racism policies. And all of this fits into that A out of B, not B out of A template. So let's look at how the template works, the schematic structure of reasoning it activates. The noun complexes all map onto our A's and B's very clearly, as do the prepositions and the negation. For ease of reference, I've also added superscripts to the variables. Now, A1 always references a physical entity, almost always human, a boy, a girl, Tarzan, Coon. And B1 always references a physical location, the country, the woods, Harvard. In our particular case, there's an additional figural instance in which the condition of apartheid evokes the physical location of South Africa. Now, B2 always implicates conditions, qualities, attributes, whatever, some constellation of values. But it's always encoded as a physical object, something that can be physically manipulated, picked up, moved, taken out of some containing space or object. Meanwhile, A2 is always figured as a container, an enclosure of some kind. This is not literal. There's no real suggestion here that it's possible somehow to look into brains and find somehow some electrical current that represents racism and take it out in some way. But our knowledge of that kind of physical action is leveraged. It compares taking a belief, a disposition out of a person like you take a marble out of a bag or a candy out of a bowl, or rather, not taking the marble out of the bag or the candy out of the bowl, since the construction blocks it, says it's impossible. The first part of the A out of B is almost always physical and literal. Our Elon Musk example has that little bit of exception. We still know that the primary reference is the country of South Africa, which is physical, but the reference passes through the rhetorical figure of correlation known as metonymy. The second part, the not B out of A part, is always figural. It utilizes the analogical figure of metaphor to turn abstract concepts into solid objects. The specific type of metaphor is called reification, which is just Latin for make into a thing. It turns people, boys, girls, Tarzan, Elon Musk, or rather some kind of metaphysical essence of the people into a physical container. Okay, let's get back to Isaac Newton for a moment. One of the patterns in our A out of B expressions, the most preeminent one, is what rhetoricians know as antimetaboly and abbreviate with the ABBA formula. And that's the pattern that Newton uses in Principia to illustrate his third law of motion. And there's a couple more here. You can easily see what the pattern is. Two words repeat, and they repeat in reverse order. Stone, finger, finger, stone, life, the germ, life. Antimetabolies occur in all genres, all registers, all languages. They aren't just fancy poetic doodads in literature and oratory and poetry, or maybe some advertisements like, I'm stuck on Band-Aids because Band-Aids stick on me. I have hundreds of examples from ancient Chinese, from Yoruba folk tales, proverbs, language acquisition data, language pathology data. They're everywhere. Why? There are two reasons: neurocognitive salience and communicative functional pressure. First, they appeal to our neurocognitive dispositions. Our brains and minds respond naturally to repetitions, to relative position, to a sense of parallelism and balance. So we pay more attention when they show up. We remember them more clearly, and we're more likely to repeat them, so they propagate culturally more widely and generate constructions like the A out of B construction. That's one reason, neurocognitive salience. Second, they're a highly natural way to express reciprocality. And reciprocality is a basic fact of physical, emotional, and social experience. It's something we need to talk about, something we need to encode. Antimetabolies capture reciprocality beautifully. First, the A does something to the B, then the B does something to the A. The Newton expression is physical reciprocality, reciprocal action or reciprocal causation. The Pasteur example expresses reciprocal specification. You can't understand the germ or the life without understanding the other. The Dumas example is reciprocal obligation. That's reason number two, communicative necessity. Antimetabolies show up all over the place because of a convergence of neurocognitive salience and communicative necessity. And that's true of rhetorical figures more generally. Back to our apartheid boy, Elon Musk. This construction says that apartheid, or more particularly anti-black racism, and the boy, Elon Musk, are inextricably bound together. They reciprocally specify each other. You can't understand this particular boy, Elon Musk, without factoring in apartheid, and you can't understand apartheid without factoring in its effects on specific individuals. And of course here, specifically, because of the context, it certainly means its effects on one particular white person, economically and culturally powerful. But the factors we've been looking at are universal. So that's a sliver of what computational linguists need to know about rhetoric, but I hope you can see it's a very revealing sliver. Certainly it's representative. There are scores of such rhetorical patterns based on neurocognitive affinities for repetition, sequence, balance, and so on, and serving communicative necessities like reciprocality, referential precision, semantic transitivity, and so on, scores of them. Linguists need to know about them in order to incorporate them into their theories if they hope to fulfill their mandate of understanding how language works. And computational linguists need to know about them more specifically because they're patterns that can be found easily computationally. Thanks for listening. If there's anything here that interests you, you can hit me up. My address is there. And I'll just leave, because I've got a moment or two of your time left, I'll just leave you with, instead of credits, a roll of another anti-metabolic construction, the do it to them before they do it to you construction. Thanks again.